Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to a brand new episode. Today, our topic is something that has been bugging me for a while now. The new trend now, and it's not quite quitting. The new trend now is for entry level. And what I mean by entry level is these jobs now that before entry level used to mean a completely different thing than it means now. And now you have to have a bachelor's degree and 5 or 6 years worth of experience in a particular profession to even get through the door. That's not how it used to be. We used to be the ability that when you just got out of school, high school, or you were in college, you were interning to a lot of places, or you had your associate's degree, it can get you through the door and you can have a good career. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an old head. I'll be 43 in 2 weeks. But you would think that they wouldn't move the goalposts as far as they're moving it. I can understand some professions where they want you to have experience, some professions. But how are you supposed to have 5 years of experience if you're just coming out of college? Even if you have a bachelor's degree, you don't have the experience. So how are you going to get through the door? How are you going to say this is an entry level position when it's not entry level, when they want you to have a minimum? If you have to have a minimum of 5 years experience in one profession, that is no longer an entry level position. That is a mid-level position. That means you already have the experience coming through the door. Entry level was supposed to get you in so you're able to learn the job. But we gotten to the point now where they don't want you to learn the job anymore. They don't want to teach you. They want you to come in already ready to go. But how is that supposed to happen for people when people don't have that experience? How do you expect that to happen for them when they don't have that ability to be in somewhere long enough for them to learn? These are kids coming out of college, going into 40, 50, 60, even $100,000 worth of debt, and they can't even get an entry-level position into a job because you move the goalpost so far to reach that it makes things impossible. Most of these kids have to go to a startup, and it's hard to get into a startup to begin with. Companies are supposed to teach. That is the point of being in companies. You're supposed to take your talent that's there, and you're supposed to give them the tools for them to learn how to be better at a job. Because this way, you don't have to hire from the outside. You have talent in the inside where you can move them up. And a lot of these companies have gone away from that style of work now. If I were to go on LinkedIn right now, or if I was to go on Indeed right now, and I'm looking at positions and I did some research before I even did this podcast. I was looking at certain professions and certain businesses, and right away, boom, you need a bachelor's degree off rip. No longer an associate's. And associates doesn't exist anymore for some people, I guess, even though it's in a degree. Now they want you to have a bachelor's degree. Everybody's not going to get a bachelor's degree. Not everybody's going to go to college. A degree doesn't equate talent. A degree does not equate intelligence. You have plenty of folks that go to school that get a degree that don't know a damn thing about what they're talking about or doing. You got baby face kids coming into professions that don't know what they're doing. Your job is as companies is to teach them. They went to school to get their education in what they wanted to do, which is the job that they applied for you. But how do you expect them to have that knowledge and that experience when they're fresh coming out of college? We lie to these kids. Okay? We lie to these kids when it comes to this stuff. What do they tell you? Get a college degree. It'll get your foot in the door somewhere. It'll get your foot in the door here. It's going to help you make more money. It's going to help you do this. It's going to help you do that. Really? Because there's a lot of instances where you got kids with college degree that don't have a job. They can't get a job because they don't have the experience necessary. So why are they going to college in the first place? Certificates are just as good as a degree. You know why? Because you are learning the same thing that a degree would give you at a third of the cost. You can get a certified certificate from places like EDUX where they have college courses that are actually given by Harvard, that are actually given by Syracuse University, NYU. These courses are legit certifications. The certification is probably going to cost you $500. One might cost you $1,200, $1,500. I'd rather pay $1,500 than $40,000 a year to go somewhere where there's no guarantee of me getting work. And a lot of people like me in my position, I worked hard to be where I am. Okay. My transition from doing private security to working in finance rarely ever happens. And I'm grateful for where I am. And I've worked hard from where I am. Didn't have a degree. I had a will and a drive, and I worked everybody. And I'm talented at what I do. There's always room for improvement. Even I'm going back to get some certificates just in order for me to fluff up my resume and try to move up the ladder because they want to see some type of paper. But for these kids who are fresh out of college with these hopes and dreams that they're going to land these positions now where it's an entry level job they can get in and learn, that's not how it's working anymore. It's not. Some people don't have the patience to go to college for 4 years. It used to be just the associates. You can have an entire career off the associates. Look at these nurses. I feel bad for nurses now. These nurses went to a 2-year program. Okay. A few years back, they changed it. Now they had to go get their bachelor's degree. They had to go 4 years. And we're talking about nurses that have been in nursing for 20 years, 20 plus years, that had another 10 years before they could retire, have to go out of their pocket and go back to school to get their bachelor's because it's not proactive. It's not it's not they're not grandfathered in. They had to go back. To me, we put our nation in debt. We put these kids in debt, and there's no guarantee that their future is going to be their future. Half these people's degrees don't equate to what they're doing in real life. But when you tell somebody this is an entry level position, but expect them to have years of service and years of experience, it is an absolute joke. It is an absolute joke. That is not entry level. That is mid level. Entry level should be no experience. Entry level should be you fresh out of college, making a decent salary because you have your degree, and then teaching you and refining your skills that you learned at the college level. But now, with the way the economy is and things are, companies don't want to do that anymore. Companies don't want to put in that work that it takes to make their talent better. So when you do get in someplace and you do learn, what tends to happen is they get better at the position, you don't want to pay them more, and then they leave. So now, in order for you to avoid that now, what you do is you have them come in with the experience already. So you can pay them what they want to get paid, or you can pay them close to what they want to get paid so they don't have to leave. We're at a point now in our country where we can't get jobs. Everybody has this trend of quiet quitting. You can quiet quit all you want, but if you do finally quit or they do finally get rid of you, it's not as easy as you think it is now to get a position anymore because companies now are tired of being ghosted. Okay. So companies are turning the tables on people now. So what companies are doing now is they're pulling offers. Grass ain't always greener at all. So if you go here, you have an offer from a company, right? You put your 2 weeks of notice at your other job. When it's time to start the other position, they tell you 3 or 4 days beforehand that we have rescinded our offer to you. How do you think that's going to make you feel? Because this is what companies are doing. They tighten in the purse strings. They don't want to pay for talent. They want to pay you what they think you're worth, they think you're worth, not what your worth is. They don't want to come out of their pocket to pay you. Most companies. There are companies out there that will pay you what your worth is, but it's not skating by. You're not just going to sit there and do nothing all day. especially in the financial world. If you're an investment banker, you have all these, you had like 6 or 7 or 8 investment bankers quit uh, recently because of the work environment, because of the toxic work environment. I mean, but hasn't investment banking always been that way? Hasn't trading always been that way? Wolf of Wall Street. I mean, everybody is a dog eat dog world in that world, in that industry. You have to hustle to make your money. But I think we gotten to the point now where people value their work life balance. They don't want to spend 15 hours working every day, especially if you have a family. Who wants to be in the office 15 hours a day and you don't get to see the family? You don't get to be around your family. That doesn't make any sense to me. We're at a point now where I think people are starting to wake up to the fact that working is not, is, giving your entire life, giving the man 30 years, 35 years of your life, and you burn out and he'll replace you in 2 weeks. Or if you're dying the job, he'll replace you in 2 weeks. Oh, well, it's sad that he passed on, but business needs to keep going. The business is not going to stop because you decided to leave or you decided to quit. This is why there's no loyalty in business anymore. Before, you were loyal to one company. People would spend their entire career sitting in one company. They would give their entire life to that company. You still have some companies like that. And in certain countries, they still do that. They still do that. In certain countries, people will stay there for their entire career. But a lot of these companies now, you can't even trust the CEO. They want you to show loyalty to a company, but the CEO, at the drop of a hat, if he gets an offer to go, let's take example, let's say Goldman Sachs. If their CEO has an opportunity to make $30 more million than he's making now, salary wise, to take over as CEO at another company, do you not think he's going to jump at that? Of course he is, or she is. Of course they are. Because at the end of the day, money talks. And these CEOs know that. There's no trickle down economics. The top 1% is always going to eat, no matter what. No matter what. But us, the lower few, okay, because you can't even call people in who's making 70, $80,000 middle class anymore. That went out the window. You got people who are making combined salaries of $100,000 a year, and the way things have gone up inflation wise, it's costing you arm and a leg to eat. Gas is on the rise. People who are renting, as the rent has gone up. In some of these states, they can raise the rent as high as 300%, and you can't do anything about it because those are the laws in place. It's always going to be cheaper for you to own than to rent. But then, even then, some people can't pay their mortgage because the interest rates have gone up. Now you have millennials who are, and Gen Zers who are saying they regret buying their home because now it feels like a weight around their neck because they can't offload it or it's too much to maintain. They would have just rather rented. So how do you expect these kids coming out of college now? My son in a couple of years, when he inevitably goes to school, okay, and he wants to get an entry level position somewhere, he doesn't have the experience. How's that going to work? Unless you own a business and your kid comes work for you or you know somebody. And I'll say this time blue in the face. It's a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. A lot of these times these kids are getting positions in companies because either their dad works there, they have a family who works there, or their dad knows somebody that works there that they're friends with. Nepotism is a real thing. If I had a son and I owned a company, absolutely I would have my son come work for my company. Why not? But there are instances where people who are very talented can't get their foot in the door. I was lucky. I was lucky because the district manager at the time took a chance on me because the only reason they even took a chance on me, one, is because I was bilingual. I speak Spanish and I had a drive in me that she could see. But not everybody's going to give you that chance. Transitions like mine don't happen very often. And you feel sometimes that you have to work even harder. But for these kids, they might not be as lucky. These kids were 40, 50, 60, $70,000 in debt because they felt like they had to go to school to get a degree to do their job. It's crazy to me. Even some of these labor intensive jobs, construction jobs, want you to be educated to do manual labor. What? That's what being an apprentice is. This is what internships are for you to learn this. See, before, if you were an intern, they didn't pay you. That went out the window now. People are not going to be doing intern work for free. It doesn't work that way. You know why people are not going to do that for free anymore? Because, like everything else, companies abuse that power. They abuse that power. Oh, if you don't do this for me, you don't do that, I won't give you a recommendation letter for the company you want to go to. Because that's what internships do. You do your internship, they give you a recommendation letter afterwards saying, hey, he came here, worked here, was great, blah, 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 blah. And that helps you get your foot through the door. A lot of kids are not doing internships anymore. And the top 1% kids are the ones who are doing the internships, especially those internships that don't pay you. People in the lower class, like myself, my son is not going to be able to go get one of those unpaid interns to learn. It's not going to work that way. But these kids who have parents who are in the top 1%, they can go take those jobs that don't pay anything. They can go work for free because they have their parents who are able to take care of them and able to supplement their income while they're doing the internship so they can get their foot in the door somewhere. But not everybody has that luxury. So I would like these companies to stop using that term entry level when you look for a job on these websites like Indeed and Glassdoor, because it's not true. Our kids are going to be drastically in trouble moving on the line when it's time for them to go out into the workplace. You got kids right now don't even want to work at Mickey D's, even though they're paying $13 an hour, $12 an hour, because them working at McDonald's, how's that going to translate to them working in an office position somewhere? Or some of these kids just don't want to do manual labor. And believe me, working at a fast food place is manual labor. Those environments are some of the most stressful environments you can ever have. But those are the environments where you don't have to have a degree to get into. But these kids don't want to do it anymore. They feel they shouldn't have to do it anymore. You got infrastructures breaking down everywhere. Look at Mississippi. They don't have any water. Jackson, Mississippi, to be specific. They don't have any water because they didn't bother paying into the infrastructure. And then on top of that, a lot of these people don't want to do labor intensive jobs anymore. Pipe fitters, construction workers. People are not interested in doing that anymore. People want the jobs where you're air conditioned all day, where you're on a computer all day, where you can remote work and travel while you're working. But that's society's not built that way. We need people on the ground floor. Certain jobs are never going to go away because we need them. Security is one of them. We're always going to need security. We're always going to need police. We're always going to need nurses and doctors. There are certain industries that your education has to be on point because now you are dealing with people's lives. And you have to know the laws. You have to know what you're doing. I can't be a doctor because I want to be a doctor, not go to medical school. I can't be a lawyer and not go to law school. I mean, even though, Kim Kardashian found a way around that, but not everybody's going to be able to do that or have the privilege to do that. It's like investment. You just can't be. Everybody wants to be, a day trader. But when you deal with these big time companies, you have to be licensed. You have to have your 6, your 7, 65. I mean, it goes on and on, life and health, because you have to know what you're doing. You being these people who day trade that don't have degrees, some of these guys get very lucky and they make a lot of money because they're knowledgeable. They don't have the degree, but they're knowledgeable. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to go get their licensing and go work for a company. We have gotten to the point now where entry level means mid level. And mid level, God knows what you need in mid level. I've seen some positions where they want you to have your bachelor's degree and they want you to have 8 years of experience just to make $60,000 a year. a bachelor's degree, and 8 years of work experience just to make $60,000, $70,000 a year. That is absolutely ridiculous. We have gotten to the point now where is it even worth trying as hard for these kids now? Because there's no guarantee they're going to get a position anywhere. That's why a lot of these kids don't want to move out of home. Parents like me used to have the mentality is, man, when this kid is 18, 19, he's going to have to fly high. And, because I was out of my house at 17 years old, it was a different time then. I was out of my house at a young age. It's not like that anymore. When my oldest turns 18, I'm not kicking him out of the house. I'm not doing it because he's not going to be ready for the world yet. He can't afford to be ready for the world. These kids can't afford to get their own. I got my own apartment at a young age. These kids are not going to be able to do that. You have to get co-signed now. Like at 18, 19 years old, you think these kids are going to be able to rent a place? No, they run credit checks now on everything, especially in areas like the South. Down here in the Charlotte area, they run credit checks on everything. You can't get a house without co-sign, and you can't get a car without co-sign unless you buy it outright. It's ridiculous, but you expect kids who are 17, who are 18, 19, 20 to be kicked out into the world when they can't afford it. We as parents, especially the older generation of parents, that mentality needs to change. I understand we want our freedom. We do. We feel like we raised the kid for 18 years. When you're a parent, you're always a parent. So for my kids, when they get to that age, listen, you can stay here, work, and start saving up, but you have to work. You have to work because it's just, you're not going to sit here doing anything. But at the same time, I can't blame my kid if he wants a position that he went to school for and he's tried 100 different applications and he can't get it because he doesn't have the experience that they're looking for, even though it's entry level. Somewhere along the line, things have gone very, very bad with our economy, with our the global economy and these jobs, these big multi-billion-dollar corporations. You're making billions of dollars a year. You can't afford to pay your ground level employees. You paying your corporate employees millions of dollars. You paying your shareholders millions of dollars. But you need your entry level employees to have 5 years of experience and a bachelor's degree for entry level. It's amazing. We need to do better. Because if not, these kids are not going to have a future. It seems like this country is regressing a bit on how things go. And it's a sad thing because I think this is a great country with all its faults, with all the faults that the United States has, and it has a ton of faults. It has a dark history that a lot of people try to sweep under the rug. Racism, which is alive and well, whether people want to deny it or not. Colorism within our own communities, Hispanic community, Black community. It's there. Whether you want to talk about it or don't want to talk about it, it's there. And it hinders progress. I'm not left or right. I'm not blue pill or red pill. My opinions are based off what I know and what I see and what I've learned. I don't pick one side or the other. And I don't believe you should have to pick one side or the other. I believe that there's issues that you're passionate about, you should be speaking about it. Like this one. I'm very passionate about this one because I don't believe a bachelor's degree equates talent. You do not have to have that piece of paper in order for you to be talented enough to do a job, certain specific jobs. But they want it. Most colleges do is put you in debt. Not everybody can afford a scholarship. Not everybody's going to be able to get a scholarship. Not everybody's an athlete. Most of these kids are coming from, poor areas who are trying to be the first generation to go to school and get their degree to make good. Some of these kids are working, can't even go to college because they're trying to help their parents pay the bills. Everybody's not going to have that luxury of going to school. So we can have and go to get certificates, get certifications, which to me is just as good as somebody having a BA. Because a lot of the people in the top 1% didn't even go to college. A lot of these billionaires if they did go to college, they didn't finish college. So why are you asking these kids to have a bachelor's degree and 5 years worth of experience to get into an entry level position? Kind of makes me sick to my stomach. What about the secondary education for adults? You have adults that switch professions all the time. Like me, I was in my late 30s. I was about 37, 30, late in my 36, around there when I switched professions from doing what I was doing. I went to school for security. I actually went to an academy to be a security officer in Ohio. You actually have to get an education for that. You can't get licensed just to get licensed. There has to be training done, and you have to go to an academy. And I could have stuck it out in school because I had a 4.8 GPA. I made the 2-year fraternity for 2-year colleges. I had a 4.0 GPA. I earned 24 credits. But guess what? I had kids. I had a family to take care of. I didn't have time to go to school. I just didn't. And everybody's in that situation sometimes. You just don't have the time. Oh, well, go to night school. That's easy for you to say. Go to night school. When you're working all day long, you're home, you're tired. You have to come home. You have to do your duties when you come through that door for your family. And then you expect somebody who works those type of hours in that labor intensive job, or a job where you have to be on guard all day long, you expect them to go to night school. Doesn't work that way. We choose to make our priorities. My priority was taking care of my family because I chose to have a family. So my job was to take care of my family, which I did very well, even on the minuscule salary that I was making at the time. I still managed to make it work because I was good at business. I knew how to budget. I knew, what I needed, what I didn't need it, what expenses, can get pushed back. You learn how as you go. Those are skills you pick up. But I fear for my kids moving forward. Because if my son doesn't want to go to school, he doesn't want to go to college, how can I force him to? If he wants to go learn a trade, he can go learn a trade. But there's no guarantee that trade he's going to learn, he's going to be able to get his foot in the door. He wants to become a computer technician. Let's say he gets his certification being a computer technician. There's no guarantee he's going to get in the door in an entry-level position because he didn't have the years of experience. He just has the training. So even with a certification, there's no guarantee you're going to get your foot in the door. Even if it's something that you went to school that you're certified to do. I got lucky to get in, but I educate myself every day in the industry that I'm in, and I learn and I learn and I learn. And the older you get, the harder it gets. We have to figure out a better way for these kids moving forward. But anyway, folks, I appreciate you listening today. We'll be back next week. I'll leave you what I always leave you with. If you found your purpose, live it. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you later.